Good morning, everybody. Hello to all my peeps in the chat room, all my lurkers, and all my Memorex viewers that'll watch her later on. Glad to have you with me today. It is a nice day in the neighborhood today. It's in the 70s and there's not a breeze a blowing. It's a little overcast, but the people are out and about and up and down the streets and the alleys all over town looking for the yard sales and garage sales and anything that might be open a little early. The festival here does not start until tomorrow, but there's still some of them that are open today. I think they have to pay a fee if they wanted to set up early, but the free stuff starts tomorrow for people being able to set up for this tractor festival. I'm going to see about trying to film the tractor parade that goes on here in town in the morning. If I can get that filmed, I'll put it over on my channel for anybody that wants to view the antique tractors. They go right past my house. And all I have to do is go sit on the porch and try to record it if I can get the camera to work. So might have that little special thing for you tomorrow. Haven't been putting anything over on the story time over on my channel last few days because I've been busy trying to prepare some things for the little sale that I'm going to try to have through the festival, which brings me to my next point. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday's LHN show, Level Headed News show here at noon broadcast, but there will be no chat room. It will be a pre-recorded show because I'll either do it late tonight or early in the morning and have it set to come on and play at noon for y'all. So you'll still get the news, you'll still get the show. It just won't be me live on the air. And we will resume with live broadcast next Monday. So you'll still get the show. You just won't be getting me live. And who knows what I'm liable to do. You know, I'm liable to try to do some kind of broadcast for the tractor festival. Who knows? Anything's liable to happen when I'm around. But wanted to bring that to your attention. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to jump on into the news. Good golly, there's all kinds of things here in the news today. And we'll start off here with this first one if we can get it to come up. This pack review. And it says Hillary's Huma Abedin was assistant editor of a radical Muslim journal that blamed U.S. for 9/11 for a decade. Hillary Clinton's right-hand woman, Huma Abedin, worked for a radical Muslim newspaper that opposed rights for gays and women and blamed the U.S. for the 9/11 attacks, according to a bombshell story in the New York Post on Sunday. Abedin was an assistant editor for the Journal of Muslim Minority Affairs, where her mother, Mahmoud Abedin, continues to work as the editor-in-chief, the New York Post reported. She could be the next White House chief of staff. In fact, Abedin is listed as the assistant editor on a 2002 issue of the journal in which her mother said the U.S. brought the 9/11 attacks on itself due to injustices committed against Muslim nations, including sanctions against Iraq, the Post reported. The spiral of violence having continued unabated worldwide and widely seen to be allowed to continue was building up intense anger and hostility within the pressure cooker that was kept on a vigorous flame while the lid was weighted down with various kinds of injustices and sanctions, she wrote. It was a time bomb that had to explode, and explode it did on September the 11th, changing in its wake the life and times of the very community and the people it aimed to serve. What could be equally damaging for the Clinton campaign, which prides itself on being a beacon of women's rights and LGBT rights, is a 1996 article that argued against single mothers and gay families, according to the Post. The article, titled "Women's Rights Are Islamic Rights," meant to mock Hillary Clinton's "Women's Rights Are Human Rights" speech at the UN Women's Conference in Beijing in 1995, suggested that gay couples with children, working mothers, and single mothers should not be considered families. A conjugal family established through marriage contract between a man and a woman and extended through procreation is the only definition of family a Muslim can accept, the author wrote, according to the Post. Pushing mothers out into the open labor market is a clear demonstration of lack of respect of womanhood and motherhood, he continued. The article further suggested that women could be inviting rape by wearing revealing clothing. Another damaging piece in the same issue, written by Abdeen's mother, chastised Clinton for pushing a very aggressive and radically feminist agenda. Empowerment of women does more harm than benefit the cause of women or their relations with men, she wrote, according to the Post. By placing women in the care and protection of men, and by making women responsible for those under her charge, she wrote, Islamic values generate a sense of compassion in human and family relations. Among all systems of belief, Islam goes the furthest in restoring equality across gender, the elder Abdeen wrote. Acknowledging the very central role women play in procreation, child raising, and homemaking, Islam places the economic responsibility of supporting the family primarily on the male members. She even argued in favor of men in domestic violence situations, according to the Post, stating that most case men abusing women could be attributed to the stress and frustrations that men encounter in their daily lives. Clinton's camp has not responded to numerous requests for commitment or for comment by the Post, which shouldn't be much of a surprise considering how stark a contrast this information presents to the image Clinton wants to project. Are the Clinton-friendly media going to be able to bury this one for her? So there you have that article. The next one that we have is off of barenakedislam.com. Obama regime urges American businesses to hire Syrian and other Muslim refugees instead of American citizens. The White House this week issued a formal call to action for U.S. firms to make new, measurable, and significant commitments that will have a long-term sustainable impact on Muslim refugees residing in countries on the front lines of this crisis and in countries of resettlement like the United States. CNBC by Zayed Haider serves as the special representative for commercial and business affairs at the U.S. Department of State. The call to action flows from Obama administration's ongoing leadership in response to the human tragedy of 20 million refugees being scattered across the globe today. Since the start of the Syrian conflict that has displaced 4.5 million people, the administration has provided over $5 billion in humanitarian aid. On September the 20th, President Obama will host a summit of world leaders on the refugee crisis to secure increased pledges for aid, measures to help Muslim refugees become contributing members of their host communities, including getting 1 million adults the legal right to work and greater intake of Muslim refugees through resettlement and work programs. According to Upwardly Global, an organization focused on helping Muslim refugees build careers, some companies in the United States are already actively tapping this potential. Nearly 30% of the workforce of Kobani, a leading Muslim-owned yogurt company, consists of Muslim refugees resettled in the United States. And let's see, goes on down here. It says, yet the hiring process can be fought in risks. In words of one Muslim refugee, considerable brain waste. During the roundtable I participated in on World Refugee Day, I heard firsthand from individuals who had been accountants, journalists, and engineers in their home countries and who struggled against the odds to have their skills and potential ultimately recognized by the U.S. employers to mutual benefit. You mean like all the highly educated and skilled Jews and Italians who came to the U.S. in the early 20th century and ended up working as cab drivers or laborers for years? The experiences of these individuals indicates the potential for U.S. companies to reap real talent, to do well and do good by taking a broader view of employing Muslim refugees. As the White House call to action outlines, there are a variety of avenues through which companies can engage beyond hiring refugees. These span providing vocational training and apprenticeships to extending technical assistance and seed funding to Muslim refugees to allow them to start new businesses, prioritizing the procurement of goods and services from Muslim refugee-run businesses to enabling access to key financial services. In recognition of the clear economic and social value of such efforts, the 2016 Awards for Corporate Excellence that will be given by U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry later this year, a new category on inclusive hiring practices, notably the hiring of Muslim refugees. The Washington Examiner states, to add insult to injury and further hurt American job seekers, in October of 2015, the Obama regime dangled $12,000 bonuses in taxpayer money to American corporations who hire foreign students. The Department of Homeland Security is readying a plan to expand a program that pays U.S. employers to hire foreign STEM students taught in America, a move that could end up punishing American college grads and even the elderly, according to an immigration think tank. Currently, the program urges companies to hire STEM students for a year. CIS said firms are paid up to $10,000 to participate. The new proposal, said CIS, is to add on another year and $2,000 in bonuses. David North, a CIS fellow, said that the proposed changes should be headlined, DHS proposes bonuses for employers who hire aliens rather than citizens. So there you have that article. Very interesting. The next one we have is off of conservativefiringline.com. And the title of this one is NPR Promotes Baby Tax to Combat Climate Change and Attacks Parenthood. I'm trying to scroll up here a little bit. There we go. Get it to settle down here. It's one of them flippy pages, isn't it? You either get too much or not enough. There we go. Should we be having kids in the age of climate change? This is the question on an article at the taxpayer subsidized NPR website. And yet another attack on the sanctity of human life. The leftist outlet promoted the suggestion that those who have children in wealthy nations be hit with a special baby tax to combat climate change. Newsbusters reported, NPR correspondent Jennifer Loudon reported that Professor Travis Reeder presented moral arguments to James Madison University students, claiming the best way to protect future generations from the threat of climate change is by not having them. A philosopher, Reeder told them that having fewer children reduces carbon emissions more effectively than not eating meat, driving hybrid cars, and using eco-friendly appliances. Loudon's article posted on the NPR website about the interview with Reeder was even more positive. In it, she wrote that his claims sound pretty persuasive in the classroom. We as parents, we as family members, we get the good, Reeder explained, and the world, the community, pays the cost. Claiming to hold the moral high ground, he added, it is not the childless who must justify their lifestyle, it's the rest of us. Reeder, by the way, has a child, even though his wife formerly wanted a big family. As Mira Ebersole notes, these kind of anti-life arguments are par for the course on the left, including radical environmentalists. Reeder described his scheme as a carbon tax on kids and suggested it be based on income and raised for each additional child. It says, Climate Depot's Mark Morano, however, said that the U.S. environmentalists are taking a page from Hillary Clinton's mandatory one-child policy, even as China abandons the policy. If these wacky climate activists believe their own literature, they would realize that global warming may lead to less kids. The Daily Wire added, Reeder's proposal is the latest example of the radical environmentalist literal war on the mythological notion of man-made climate change. The environmentalist left has always cried wolf about population growth bringing about the end of the world. Reeder's example is no different. The idea of the baby tax reveals the deranged ideology of the environmentalist left. It's not about the environment, it's about empowering the state to further control the plebs in the name of the climate change. In short, it's about control. Newsbuster also noted that Loudon once complained that schools were still teaching both sides of the global warming issue. And there's some related articles that you can click on here to read more on this if you would like to. And all these URLs, of course, are in the description of the video, should you want to do more research on them or read them for yourself. The next article that we have is off of DennisMichaelLynch.com. And we're waiting for it to come up here. This is a topic that I have really tried to stay away from, but I find that I may need to cover it once in a while. It's a judge's decision on Obama's transgender bathroom directive. And trying to get her to scroll up here just a little bit. There we go. Get the ads to disappear off of it. There we go. Victory has been won on bathroom battlefield. Obama and Attorney General Loretta Lynch were slapped down by federal judge in Texas Sunday, blocking the administration's controversial bathroom decree just one day before school started in Texas. The U.S. District Judge Reed O'Connor in Fort Worth, Texas, ruled Sunday that Obama's bathroom law usurps local control. Maybe it should be yokel. Usurps local control and threatens students' safety and privacy, Bloomberg reported. The Obama administration had announced in May that all schools nationwide must allow students to use the bathroom and locker rooms that match their gender identity, losing federal funding. They claimed the new rule was to prevent discrimination against transgenders. Those opposed to the law said it violates all students' privacy rights. The decree had also commanded that schools must address students by their preferred gender pronouns. Led by Texas Attorney General Karen Paxton in Texas, along with 12 other states, filed a lawsuit contesting the decree, and Sunday they won for all schools nationwide. Paxton said the judge's ruling corrected illegal federal overreach of the Obama administration. This president is attempting to rewrite the laws enacted by the elected representatives of the people and is threatening to take away federal funding from schools to force them to conform, Paxton said. That cannot be allowed to continue, which is why we took action to protect states and school districts who are charged under the state law to establish safe and disciplined environment conducive to student learning. In the judge's ruling, he slammed the Obama administration for failing to follow the law by not getting input from the public before drafting the new guidelines, according to USA Today. This case presents the difficult issue of balancing the protection of students' rights and that of personal privacy when using school bathrooms, locker rooms, showers, and other intimate facilities, while ensuring that no student unnecessarily marginalized while attending school, wrote O'Connor, who was nominated by President George W. Bush in 2007 and sits in Fort Worth, Texas. The sensitivity to this matter is heightened because defendants' actions apply to the youngest child attending school and continues for every year throughout each child's educational career. So there you have the decision on the bathrooms in the schools. The next one we have is off of the express.co.uk, and this one is assassination attempt, panic for Julian Assange as intruder scales Ecuadorian embassy wall. An attempted break-in at the Ecuadorian embassy where WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange is living was foiled this morning. The security was scrambled at London's building, sparking international concern. Assange was the target of the intruder. A statement was put out by WikiLeaks this morning. It stated 16 minutes ago, at the time this was written, at 2:47 a.m., a cat burglar scaled the side wall and window of the Ecuadorian embassy in London, fled after being caught by security. Mr. Assange has been living inside the embassy for more than 4 years and has been granted political asylum by Ecuador. So there you have that one. Then we have, off of Liberty Bell News, Black Lives Matter rejected by Black Louisiana flood victims, told to go home. Black Lives Matter didn't receive the welcoming they were expecting in Louisiana. The movement has been criticized all week for not offering any form of assistance to the African American families who lost everything in the Louisiana floods. The movement finally decided to head to Louisiana, but not to help local residents as one might think. Instead, they used their time there to stir up a ruckus and protest against police brutality. Local residents complained of receiving no donations from Black Lives Matter. They accused the movement of only caring about Black Lives Matter when the black life is taken by law enforcement, but not when blacks are the victims of a natural disaster. No way to politicize Mother Nature unless your name is Al Gore. This is the most you have done after you came and raised hell and stirred up a mess. Where are the donations from your organization? Boats to rescue people, flood food for the hungry. Where are marches and protests for the homeless and those who lost everything, says Marlo Espinal. Another one says, what is BLM doing for Louisiana? Y'all are good at getting together to protest. Well, haven't y'all got together to help out? I guess BLM only when convenient, Charlene Rogelio Molina said. Glory Ford says, you want to know why they aren't in Louisiana? It's because that's not part of their concept. Mr. Derher says, I guess Black lives only really matter to those activists when they've been taken by cops, not when they've been saved by cops, which is happening every single day down here. White people and black people, including Baton Rouge police officers, half of whom lost their homes, working together to save white people and black people and all kinds of people. The article goes on and says, people need to realize that Black Lives Matter offers nothing to comfort suffering black lives other than the politicization of their misery. Black Lives Matter is not the cure for racism. It is the seed from which racism grows. This group obviously do not care about black lives. If they did, why aren't they helping out their, or why aren't they helping out their helping local black residents? There have been hundreds of stories of people of all races working together to help one another in Louisiana, yet Black Lives Matter isn't among that group. The only reason Black Lives Matter is in Louisiana is to leech off the public spotlight rather than help the victims. They'd rather distract the media, cover their reemergence from the ashes. I don't understand what is so hard to understand when faced with the obvious facts. Black Lives Matter is the equivalent of a 5-year-old child throwing a temper tantrum when his parents don't give him enough attention. They are in Louisiana now throwing a temper tantrum because the media chose to cover Louisiana flood instead of them, as they only care about themselves. There is really no other way to explain their lack of assistance after visiting Louisiana. I'm sure a small group of them will help somewhere now, and the media will parade it around as Black Lives Matter helps Louisiana flood victims. So there you have an update on Black Lives Matters. The next one is off of naturalblaze.com. Monsanto's new illegal poison kills neighbors' crops. EPA does nothing. Now that the glyphosate has been denounced by the World Health Organization, there's a new spray in town from our friendly neighborhood purveyor of poison, Monsanto. It has yet been approved, or hasn't yet been approved, but given the history of blatant collusion between Monsanto and the government, there's little doubt that it will be. But there's a bit of a catch. Even though dicamba, the newest toxic ingredient in the Monsanto lineup, hasn't actually been approved for this use by the EPA, it's already being widely used on genetically modified crops, or GMOs. And the illegal spray is killing the crops of neighboring farmers. I'm trying to get it to scroll up here a little bit so we can move on with this. Let's see. There's an insert here. It says farmers in 10 states have now complained that dicamba is hurting their crops, according to a notice issued last week by the Environmental Protection Agency. The reported damage from dicamba has spread from 2 to 10 states in a matter of weeks, and now includes Alabama, Arkansas, Illinois, Kentucky, Minnesota, Mississippi, Missouri, North Carolina, Tennessee, and Texas. The EPA has done very little in response to the complaints, and some states are beginning to take matters into their own hands to protect their farmers and prevent further crop loss. Dicamba easily drifts in the air after it's sprayed and damages crops when it lands on neighboring fields. More than 100 Missouri farmers have reported damage to their peaches, tomatoes, cantaloupes, watermelons, rice, cotton, peas, peanuts, alfalfa, and soybeans. Natural and non-toxic products up to 50% off every, oh, that's an ad, sorry. They just throw that in there like it's part of it, don't they? The next paragraph reads, in neighboring Arkansas, frustration over dicambia drift has led the state's pesticide committee to propose prohibiting the spraying of certain dicambia formulations during the growing season from mid-April to mid-September. It has also proposed expanding mandatory buffer zones and increasing fines for violations. In other states, experts are urging farmers to hire lawyers as they think drift has affected their crops. When states and lawyers are forced to take action to protect farmers from pesticides, it's clear that the federal pesticide law is broken. Meanwhile, the EPA issued an advisory notice last week to remind farmers that dicambia has not been approved for use on new GMO cotton and soybeans. The agency asserted that farmers must carefully follow the instructions on pesticide labels, but a recent survey by the University of Missouri scientists found that 57% of farmers don't read pesticide labels before spraying their field. Dicambia, like its predecessor, glyphosate, is likely to be carcinogenic. There are serious effects on wildlife, groundwater, and neighboring fields because dicambia's strong propensity to drift. This PDF, or there's a PDF included in this that gives you the down and dirty info about dicambia if you want to take a look at that. Monsanto invested greatly in dicambia with $975 million expansion of the facility in Luling, Louisiana, where it is produced. They also launched Roundup Ready Extend soybean and cotton seeds, which have been engineered to withstand dousings of either dicambia or glyphosate. They released the seeds this spring, even though the EPA had not approved the use of dicambia on them. Farmers planted the seeds and began using dicambia anyway. As a result, more than 42,000 acres of crops in nearby fields are dying. Crops affected are peaches, tomatoes, cantaloupes, watermelons, rice, peas, peanuts, alfalfa, cotton, and soybeans. As always, Monsanto is blithely unconcerned, certain that their friends at the EPA will approve their newest toxin soon. The company appears baffled that farmers are using dicambia incorrectly and illegally on their seeds. Meanwhile, as always, the EPA doesn't give a rat's patootie. Who can forget in 2013, despite irrefutable evidence of toxicity and death, when the EPA raised the allowable limit of glyphosate? Perhaps it has something to do with the revolving door between the halls of Monsanto and the Environmental Protection Agency, or as I like to call it, the Environmental Deception Agency. One controversy after another can be attributed to the EPA, an agency charged with protecting air we breathe, the soil in which we grow, our food and water that we drink. At the bottom of each of those controversies can be found ties to the conspiracies of the big businesses that are really running the country. Decisions are being auctioned off to industry lobbyists with the most money and influence. Environmental protection is only the rule of thumb if it goes along with the green agenda in cases that benefit the redistribution of wealth, while the agency completely ignores blatant crimes against the earth it involves, for example, fracking for the benefit of a natural gas company. I used to content myself in believing that if something wasn't safe, it wouldn't be used in America. That forward-thinking, technically brilliant land that supported life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Sadly, in the case of yet another federal agency, safety is in the eye of the highest bidder. Don't expect anything from the EPA except a quick approval of dicambia. Don't expect anything from the EPA, okay, they got that twice. I guess it bared repeating, didn't it? And then more toxicity, more dead crops, and more cancer. And you can read more on this from this lady's website if you want to read more. Pull up the article and click on the link there at the bottom of it. But that there's the news on dicambia. Boy, if they can't poison us one way, they'll poison us another one, won't they? Here is off the Common Sense Show, Dave Hodges. It says America has been invaded and is in the process of being occupied. by the new ILS towers. It says new ILS towers will guide the UN airborne troops into American cities. ILS towers, which can be used to guide in the troop transport planes and heavy equipment in bad weather, are being put into the countryside outside of Cheyenne, Wyoming, where they have a lot of bad weather. IntelliStreets, Big Brother surveillance, is being installed in Cheyenne, Wyoming, as well and in prevalent at the local Walmart. In places like Flint, Michigan, our cities are being turned into potential battlegrounds as highly obnoxious and very aggressive military drills are underway and are serving to frighten the local population. The intent of the Jade Helm forces is being more clear with each passing day. We have foreign troops entering the country in Central Texas and in Portland, Oregon. I have previously reported that the Michigan National Guard and Army Reserve units have been trained with foreign troops in late April. America is being occupied by hostile forces as activists such as Jade Helm 15 and UWEX 16 are also being imposed upon American communities. As many already know, Jade Helm is preparing special operation forces to extract political dissidents and impose martial law as part of the drill. The infrastructure related to military occupation is being put into place at places like local Walmarts and in obscure places like Wheatland, Wyoming. Unmistakably, the post-collapse American infrastructure is already being put into place all across the country as per the American 2050 Agenda 21 plan. Americans could soon be on their own. Every day I get emails just like the following, which tell me how their communities are being federalized and taken over. And this says, Dear Dave, my observation going to Cheyenne, Wyoming, was that they have now installed 4 cameras at every stoplight that I went through. When I drove by Walmart, they have installed many, many cameras in bundles of 3 along the top. I'm sure you have seen this, but I hadn't here. And in the parking lot has cameras on light poles. I noticed installation of light poles, even where others were standing. Strange. I don't know about that. Hope this helps. I will stay vigilant. Signed, Jill. This is clearly IntelliStreets, and I immediately recognize this because I have previously written about this. IntelliStreets is the ultimate Big Brother surveillance device, and they have pictures in this that you need to take a look at. And they've got the traffic lights, and then they've got the light pole that hovers above the traffic lights with cameras on them pointing all angles. So that's something to see. And then they have other light poles with cameras and stuff, different kinds of light poles. So it's worth taking a look at so you'll know what to be vigilant for. It says there's a number of prominent players emerging from the enslavement of America, and one has taken center stage, and it's called America 2050. When Americans begin their morning as they depart their future high-rise stack and pack apartment buildings, they will be immediately scanned, identified, and followed by the IntelliStreet light poles. The light poles already have been beta tested in Farmington Hills, Michigan, and Birmingham, UK, and will scan you for weapons. After identifying you, it will have the capability to speak to you, don't jaywalk, Mr. Smith, for an example, and will be issued a summons to be mailed to your computer, and this will notify the police of your location if you have a warrant for your arrest. In the last line of following manufacturer's video on IntelliStreets, they do admit Housing Department of Homeland Security features, but the video does not elaborate. We now have proof that this system is going to Cheyenne, Wyoming. Jade Helm 15 and UWEX 16 are bringing in foreign troops who will not hesitate to ... Because this is the area of report that does not need much elaboration. Many of us in the independent media have received reports for years about presence of foreign, mostly Russians, on our soil. And this says, Dear Dave, I live in Copperas Cove, Texas, which is just outside Fort Hood. Yesterday, my husband spoke to a contractor whose job just ended on West Fort Hood. He said they built barracks to house 20,000 troops, and before they could install the heating and air conditioning, they were told the job was done. They weren't going to use the barracks. They were going to stay empty. Yeah, right. Editor's note. This email indirectly speaks to compartmentalization of duties in order to obscure the full purposes of the operation from the workers, as we witnessed in Midland Walmart. It says, anyway, God bless and stay safe. And then the article goes on and says, I have received reports from 2 insider sources over the past 5 weeks, which state that a large number of Turkish forces will be brought into the United States to participate in Jade Helm. They're being trained as a martial law enforcement unit who will not hesitate to use lethal force against non-compliant Americans when it comes to martial law enforcement. One source placed the amount of Turkish soldiers as high as 36,000. And this letter says, Dave, is this what the following email is referring to? Yesterday, my husband spoke to a contractor, or let's see, we just read that one. I don't know why they put that in here again. It says, and then it says the following email that I received are very typical of what I am receiving on a daily basis. Okay, this is a new one. It says, Dear Dave, longtime listener, just an FYI that I have no doubts that there are foreign troops on U.S. soil. My wife works in a position at PDX, Portland, Oregon Airport. Approximately 3 weeks ago, she reported that approximately 150 Russian-speaking soldiers wearing black and blue camo uniforms landed at PDX. All 150 were quickly loaded up on white, unmarked buses and transported away from the airport. Keep up the good work. Don't pay any attention to those idiots that say UN and or foreign soldiers are not on U.S. soil. Some of us just know better. Signed, Russ. Dear Dave and team, I'm a new listener. For the first time last night, I discovered you by listening to Hagman and Hagman. I am an employee at Walmart on Creighton Road in Pensacola, Florida. Please keep me anonymous. I have posted some of your stuff on Facebook with the very real danger of losing my job, but folks need to know what's going on. The reason for anonymous is this. I started working at Walmart in February of 2011. Sometime in 2012, I noticed lots of Russian and Slavs in our store, about 25 plus. They were here for about 2 months and they would come in groups to shop. They were very much into what they were doing, very determined shoppers, not easily distracted, very focused. I found out that they were going through some kind of classes at NAS. That's all my U.S. military friend would tell me. Most spoke Russian, a very obvious language, but others spoke diverse Slavic languages. It's easy to tell a language when one has spent time traveling abroad, as I had in the past years. While they were here, it definitely got my attention. Male and female, most of them young and strong, but not all. Some were older. 1 or 2 older ones seem to have taken permanent residence here. Maybe I am too paranoid about their presence, but I grew up as a Navy brat. My dad was in the U.S. intelligence or U.S. Naval Intelligence. Got to go for now. Thanks for being here for us. God's rich blessings. And the article goes on and says an ILS device used to guide planes by instrument are mostly used by airports that are experiencing bad weather. They come in all shapes and sizes. Here's a couple of examples of what they look like, and you can see these in this article if you pull it up. And you know, it's your red and white 3-legged tower with the crisscross braces going up, and it's got some kind of big old antennas on it. So you can take a look at those. It says, here's an email followed by some pictures taken by Jill from Wheatland, Wyoming, which is about 40 miles north of Cheyenne, and there are some more towers with some kind of antennas on them. It says, my sources tell me that this looks like a combination of an ILS and a communications tower. And the email says, hello, Dave. I drove around between Cheyenne, Wyoming and Wheatland, Wyoming, about 67 miles on Interstate 25. I'll attach some photos of the towers. Most have been added recently. I say less than 2 years. There are clusters of 3 and there are 4 different areas between the cities. Also took pictures of a loaf and jug with most odd fixture on it with large electrical lines to it. and one other picture of a white cone type thing. I first thought it was tornado warning sirens, but it's different than the others in Cheyenne Town, and this one is directed at the interstate and not a residential area. I don't know if they are anything worth noting, but they are what's happening around here. We also last night had helicopters flying over our area just after dark using spotlights shining down. They were flying about 1,500 feet, I'm guessing. We appreciate everything you're doing. Hope some helps, hopefully, with your sources. We can figure it out. God bless. And it says attached are 6 pictures, and the rest will be in emails to follow. So they have these pictures, and one says, why are these communication towers going north of Cheyenne? Are the telecoms expecting a huge population increase, or is this area expecting visitors? And then it says, speaking of Walmart, following photos were taken at Cheyenne, Wyoming Walmart, where you're seeing the parking lot is the IntelliStreet's origin. Since Walmart is the most shopped retail outlet in America, it would make sense to put tracking equipment at Walmart. And I mean, this is a huge tower that they've got there, and shows the cameras on the poles and stuff. It says, in conclusion, these are stunning developments in America. These ILS towers are clearly put into place to guide foreign airborne troops into local communities. Developments which would have seemed unbelievable only 10 years ago. The page of Republic democracy has been turned. As frightening as these events, they pale in comparison to what lies ahead, and that will be revealed tomorrow. So there you have that article. It's off dailybreeze.com. Waiting for it to come up here. There we go. It says, watch out for these new telephone scams to steal your money. Linda Jones received four of these calls in a week. They are extremely persistent in claiming to be the IRS and threatening to throw you in jail and all kinds of things, the 76-year-old Torrance resident said. They try to make it sound official. Jones, knowing about the telephone ruse that has conned money from countless people across the country, called back and spoke to a man claiming to be an IRS agent, telling her not to interrupt him, and listened all the way through. Officer Kevin Marden told her she was under investigation for 7 years of tax evasion and tax fraud, and she owed more than $6,000. I never believed any of it. I just wanted to find out what it was about, Jones said. He was very aggressive. I said, this is absurd. The United States taxes don't work that way. And I said, I know this is fraud. As soon as I said that, he slammed the phone down. Jones did not become a victim, but countless others across the nation have. A Redondo Beach woman told Herring's story of how she lost thousands of dollars in telephone scam that frightened her into believing she was about to be arrested. In the past month, the IRS and several South Bay police agencies have issued public warnings about the IRS scam and similar cons perpetrated by the thieves on the telephone. You are never going to get a call from the IRS demanding an immediate tax payment, IRS spokesman Ralph Tolino said. A lot of folks will hear it's the IRS and act out of panic or dismay and provide what the scammer wants. The normal correspondence to have taxpayer is a letter in the mail. It's not a random threatening phone call. Last week, Daily Breeze newsroom employees received a telephone call demanding that he call back the IRS or risk arrest for not paying his taxes. And the number had 360 360 area code, a location outside Seattle. A reporter called the number. Hello, this is the Internal Revenue Service, the man said when he picked up the telephone. In the background, other voices could be heard engaged in conversation. It says, hold a second, the man told the reporter, who explained he was calling back because he was concerned about his tax bill. I will let you know everything that's going on, okay? Let me check it. Let me check your file. The man hung up. The interaction and subsequent one in which the man again answered Internal Revenue Service before saying there had been a mistake and hanging up appeared to be part of an ongoing con that has scammed taxpayers nationwide for years, scaring people into wiring money to pay off tax debt they didn't actually have. Jones said the man explained that if she paid $3,000 immediately, they would put through the paperwork to hold off her arrest. Pay by check, give them my bank account number or a credit card, Jones said. It just infuriates me. That just really upset me. On Friday, the IRS said the con artists have added the new twist to their trove of telephone scams. Now callers purporting to be the IRS agents are taking advantage of back-to-school season to demand payments for unpaid taxes, including a federal student tax. Callers, the IRS said, threatened to report the student to the police to be arrested. There is no such tax, Tolino said. It doesn't exist. These scammers are very persuasive and busy. In recent weeks, several South Bay police agencies have issued bulletins and warnings about a variety of telephone scams to avoid. Here's some of them, according to reports from the authorities in Torrance, Lomita, Rancho Palos Verdes, and Redondo Beach. Scam variations. There's a jury scam. Callers identifying themselves as local police officers tell victims a warrant was issued for their arrest for failing to show up for jury duty. They instruct victims to obtain prepaid Visa, iTunes, or other credit cards at local CVS or Walgreens for several $100s and to give the serial numbers and security codes to the caller who takes the money. The President CEO scam. An executive secretary or finance officer receives an email from the company's president CEO asking for a wire transfer of funds, often coming when the CEO is out of the country. The mail address is very similar to the president's accurate email address and appears legitimate. The scams originate in China, Japan, Russia, and Canada. The utility scam. The caller claims to be from Southern California Edison or another utility and demands payment for a bill. Victims are told to obtain a prepaid debit card and provide the security numbers to the caller. Torrance scam. A caller claims to be from the city of Torrance Civil Engineering or another department and tells the victim they need to buy a plumbing or electrical upgrade to comply with city requirements. The callers use current city employee names, including city manager Leroy Jackson, as leverage while instructing the victim to obtain a prepaid debit card. The grandchildren scam. Callers frighten elderly victims by obtaining the names of grandchildren, often through social media websites, and tell them they are in jail and need money sent for bail. The caller often asks for payment through prepaid credit cards. Microsoft scam. Callers claiming to be from Microsoft tell victims they are aware of an error or virus on their computer. They ask them to log on and press certain keys, which gives the caller access to the computer. They then steal personal identifying information. The rental scam. Ads for rental properties and lower the price to attract renters. They then report them on Craigslist, Zillow, and other sites with different contract numbers. Victims who respond are asked to make security deposit into a bank account. Victims then go to get the keys, but no one shows up. So there you have some telephone scams that are out, just so you know. Or you can do it the way I do it. If you don't recognize the number on your caller ID, don't answer the phone. Okay, the next one that we have is off of the Daily Sheeple. China working on building a manned radar station on the moon. Chinese government has commissioned a group of scientists to look into building a manned radar station on the moon. What began earlier this year with a 16 million won, which is 2.4 million US dollars grant from the National Natural Science Foundation of China has now moved one step closer to reality as more scientists have joined the project, and a two-day meeting was held just last month. Be used for defense monitoring and scientific research. In South China Morning Post reported that the base's powerful radar antenna array, at least 50 meters high, could also produce more powerful and clearer images of Earth, as the high-frequency microwaves emitted by the radar station could not only penetrate clouds but also Earth's surface, allowing it to monitor areas on land, under the sea, and underground. China would also be building a solar or nuclear power plant on the moon to supply the station with the amount of power needed to generate such high-intensity radio beams. One thing you will not find throughout the entire article is the word first. Typically, when China does something first, they like to make sure everyone knows it. Curiosity, not this time. Nowhere in the article about this project does it mention anything about in a first China to build manned radar base on the moon, or first of its kind, China moon radar base. Here are a few headlines real quick to give you a basic idea. China to conduct world's first gene editing trial on humans. China to build first overseas military outpost. China launches first quantum satellite. But even in China's own government-run newspaper, no China to build first manned radar station on the moon. Just China to build manned radar station on the moon. Strange, huh? Other governments will have to say about this plan. Just consider how contentious things are regarding China's man-made island situated in the China Sea, and that's here on planet Earth. So there you have that. Something to think about. Next one that we have here is off of rightwingnews.com. Busted for smoking weed. Melia gets nasty surprise just days later. And there is a video with this if you want to take a look at it. I'm not going to play it, but you can take a look at it. Wondering who Melia is, that's Obama's oldest daughter. She's been in some trouble in the past week or so. It says that it looks like Melia Obama's in trouble with her father. His wild child got caught smoking pot recently at a music festival while showing her underwear and twerking in a video. Then she fled a wild party after police arrived on the scene. I can understand how Obama might be less than pleased with his daughter partying ways while he's still in office. It's got to be a politician's worst nightmare to have a child hit their wild stage while they are high profile and in office. It's rare that I agree with Obama on anything ever, but he's fit to be tied over this, and I can't say that I blame him. From Mad World News, unfortunately for her, her father caught wind of what she was doing. In fact, she got home. There's a nasty surprise lying in wait for her. According to Radar, President Barack Obama is going into crisis mode as his first wild child continues to make a fool of herself during his last few months in the White House. As it turns out, her most recent episode after being hauled out of a party was the straw that broke the camel's back, and Barack Obama has officially flipped. As explained by an unnamed source, Melia was confronted by her famous father after he decided to take her on a little walk. This is the president's worst nightmare, the source told Radar. The end of his term is in sight, and carefully crafted image of a world-beating family is unraveling right before his eyes. This is really bad timing as Obama gets ready to leave office, possibly for greener UN pastures. He's raising money for his library and crafting an image as being world-changing Marxist. Now this, what's a president to do? I bet that walk they took was very interesting. Not so much for Melia, but in general. Face it, college kids are going to do stuff like this, and he's probably more upset on how it affects his image than how it affects hers. But still, I bet she got an earful. I know that the Secret Service did their best to whisk Melia away before she became a headline at that party. You would think she could wait to party until after January, which is only a few months away. Man, this makes me long for George Bush or just about any other first family. So there you have that one. Mercy sakes. Oh, the next one that we have is off the tribunus.com. And this is your warm and fuzzy for the day. It says American Olympians earns medal only 17 others have after her dreams are shattered on the track. It says American Abby D'Agostino did not realize how badly she was injured when she stopped to make sure fellow Olympian Nikki Hamblin of New Zealand would be able to continue a race after a precipitous fall on the track. And there is a video with this if you want to see it. You can pull up the article. It says, in early race, D'Agostino helped Hamlin to her feet after a fall that tripped them both in their 5,000-meter race. When D'Agostino fell again, this time in screaming agony, Hamlin stopped to return the favor. Hamlin's helpless concern for her fellow athlete drew praise from around the world as 28-year-old athlete gave up her opportunity to win the medal to help the fallen runner. Though D'Agostino urged to Hamlin to continue racing, the England-born athlete refused to leave the American side until a wheelchair could be brought to take her away. Both competitors were granted spots in the final, but D'Agostino's injury to her ACL and MCL kept her from the race entirely. Hamlin finished in last place, but both athletes remained surprisingly upbeat. D'Agostino stated, "This whole time here, God has made clear to me that my experience in Rio was just going to be about more than my race performance. And as soon as Nikki got up, I knew that it was." Hamlin feels her act of kindness will have a lasting effect, she said. "You can make friends in the moments that really should break your heart." Now the IOC has decided to award both athletes the prestigious Pierre de Coubertin Medal, also known as the International Fair Play Committee Award. The medal has only been awarded 17 times in the history of the Olympic Games. The award is named for founder of the International Olympic Committee and is reserved for athletes, volunteers, or officials who demonstrate the Olympic spirit and outstanding sportsmanship. "Winning this award is overwhelming," said Hamlin. "I'm proud of what we did and truly believe that you can be both a competitor and kind and responsive at the same time." She added, "Everyone comes here to compete, but there are a lot of people who don't achieve that, and the journey is really important too. That was one of those journeys, and it has gone on to be one of the most important moments of my life." So there you have it. It's important to be good to people. I got to wonder, when I read this originally, how many people actually take the time to help other people in spite of what they've got going on in their own life. Because you might have something going on that you think is going to be, change the whole world in where you're at, and somebody besides you falls by the wayside. Do you offer them a helping hand, or do you keep going? You get a hold of that brass ring and leave them sit. There's something to be said for being helpful to people. Sometimes that's more important. So with that, I think we're going to close her down for today, and I hope that you all have a wonderful week. I hope that you get out and enjoy the beautiful summer weather that we're having. Go to a festival, go play in your garden, play in the dirt, play with the bugs. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy the little things that go on. And stay tuned here. We'll have the shows Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. I'll make sure that you're taken care of. And I might have some little special things that either here or on my other channel. You never know what I'm liable to come up with. So just stay tuned, and we'll see you back here live next Monday. But I'll be talking to you every day. Bye.